Hi patrons, glad to see you again. First and foremost, I'd like to say what a wonderful response to the Patreon gallery video I did yesterday. It's probably the most comments I've ever had on a video I've put on. I mean, I must have done 200 or 300 videos on Patreon. That's the best response I think I've ever had. So it's great. Everyone seems to like the idea of having like a Patreon gallery periodically. So again, thanks for all your nice comments. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Now, what I thought I'd do today is go through some comments on YouTube that I've had and just sort of talk and discuss people's queries and questions and comments and so on and so forth. So I'm on the sort of channel comments page now. And I'll start with quite an interesting one. This is the most recent comment I've had. Actually, this is from a video I did of Glen Coe. I think it was just a short I did from a Glen Coe painting. And this is quite unusual. I don't normally get comments like this. It's just coincidence. It's the most recent comment when I'm doing this video. And it's Stevie Badass. And he says, why don't you paint something from England and just stay away from Scotland altogether? I thought, what's he going on about? So I put, well, what's wrong with Scotland? And he's put, we don't like English people. I thought, well, that's not very nice, is it? So I might just leave a... I don't know, I haven't decided how to respond to that yet, but it won't be anything abusive. I'd never get involved in slanging matches. So, jumping forward to this comment from Miss Smiler. Now, this was from a video, difficulties with reference photographs that I did. And she's put, thanks so much for your response, Steve. You hit the nail on the head. I think I'm trying to replicate what I see in the reference photograph instead of adding my own creative touches and improvements to make it my painting. And I think that's exactly what it is. People tend to use the reference photograph too literally. And I'm guilty of this. In fact, I find paintings, when I get frustrated with paintings when I'm using a reference photograph, it's because I'm trying to paint the reference photograph exactly the same. It's one of the reasons why I stopped doing commissions. I only did about half a dozen. But the problem I had was, if someone's going to send me a photograph to do as a commission, instinctively I'm just trying to make the reference photograph or the painting look like the photos too much, instead of just painting it as loose as I can like I normally do. So she continues, I need to get inspired by certain elements of a photo instead of being overwhelmed with replicating what I see. So I'll just take the main elements, whatever they are, whether it's a load of trees, like a bank of trees, or whatever it is, a little house or whatever, and sort of work around that. Don't paint every blade of grass and every leaf on the tree, all this sort of stuff. You'll drive yourself balmy. Debbie Borden continues along the same theme. No way to compete or improve on Mother Nature. I find I get tied up in details. Maybe just take the inspiration and do your own thing. It looks like what I do. That's exactly it, Debbie. Just take the inspiration from the reference photograph and just make your own impression of it. Ian continues on the same video. Spoke about this briefly on the Patreon page. I struggle too with putting pressure on myself, trying too hard to replicate reference photographs. Recently I've started just looking a few times and then cracking on with the painting, using more as inspiration than an exact copy. Same with the tutorials. And for me the results and enjoyment is so much better. And that's great, yeah. Like Ian says, just use the reference photograph as a inspiration rather than trying to make an exact copy of it. I did a video called Encourage Your Fellow Artists and Creatives as much as possible. And Ian has written, I think you're absolutely bang on right what you say about complimenting and encouraging, but also giving criticism in the right way too, if somebody like myself wants to get a good standard. Now it came up on the Patreon group recently that possibly one of a slight criticism is that not just me, but I think everyone on the group is generally too nice in terms of commenting on other paintings. I think, and I know exactly what they're saying, and I always preferred it myself when people. I think constructive criticism is what we're looking for. We don't want people to just say, "Oh, that's nice, that's nice, that's nice." My dad's the same with his models. He says he always likes asking me because he knows I'll be honest. I'm not just going to say, "Yeah, I like that," just for the sake of it. I'll look at it and I'll think, well, maybe that you could try this or you could try that, or that might have been better, whatever. And it's like Ian's trying to say, constructive criticism, I think, is what we're all after. So yeah, I definitely encourage that. Be nice, obviously be nice, but if there's something that you think could have been better, don't be afraid to say it, because we're not going to get upset. I know it's difficult to criticise some way, but as long as it's constructive, then I think it'll be welcome. And there was an interesting comment from Minty on the ideas to help when scraping out rocks and houses, etc. Minty says, "I just watched this and wanted to add that manipulating the actual card can also be an issue. How hard to press, what edge to use, etc. I find you have to press fairly hard for roofs and control your hand movements. Also, if you've dried paint underneath the paper, will likely have a bit of whatever colour was there after you scrape. All that said, it's very satisfying when it works." So just to go through these points, manipulating the card, yeah, I mean, how hard to press. I find I press quite hard, to be honest. As long, not too hard. Obviously, you don't want to press it too hard so that you damage the paper. But I press hard enough so that it comes off in one go. You haven't got to keep doing it 2, 3, 4 times. What edge to use? There's definitely that as well, because I'll sometimes, as I cut the card up, obviously I'm not cutting it. I'm not getting the same edge you get like on a factory cut card. It's slightly rougher, might be slightly out as an angle, and also it's not where I've cut it as well. It's not, you're not getting a perfect round edge. And I find whichever corner you use, you tend to get different type of effects. So I'd experiment. I'd encourage you to experiment, and it's amazing how many different types of effects you can get with the same card. Fairly hard for roofs. Yeah, I mean, I'm mainly use it. I mean, 9 times out of 10, I'm using it for a roof, and then I might, I don't know, add a couple of windows or something. But generally, you find all you need to do on the building is a roof. A lot of the time, once the roof's in, the viewer's eye will fill the rest in. Dried paint underneath the paper will likely have a bit of whatever the colour was there after you scrape. Now, I find that's not the case. I can pretty much, I'm always getting down to the whites of the paper. I think what it is, if there is previous colour there on a previous wash that's dried, when I'm applying the paint on top, it's automatically slightly loosening the paper and the paint underneath. So I'm then pressing down, and because I do get down to the whites of the paper then, even if I've got, I suppose, more than one layer. In terms of 2, 3, 4, 5 washes, I don't know how many washes you could actually have, how many layers, where it becomes then a problem. I'd have to experiment with that. But I haven't come across a problem yet where I haven't been able to get down to the whites of the paper, is what I'm trying to say. And then from the same video, Dave writes, definitely use a thicker mix. This is basically what I'm doing before I start scraping. And he writes, definitely use a thicker mix. But I've found looking from the side helps. Now basically what he's trying to do is, if you look at it from an angle, if you look at the light sort of shining on the paper, where the paint is still wet, you'll see like a shine on it. It's more obvious than looking at it sort of head on. is basically what I'm trying to say. So you can tell when you can start, or when you can start to scrape, or when you can't, when you need to stop scraping. So Dave can see as the mix begins to lose its sheen, it's time to go in with the card. Yeah, don't do it too early. Too much sheen and it will fill back in. No sheen and it's too dry. And it's getting that timing right. That's why I put it on extra thick. If I'm just doing like a normal wash, then you have to do what Dave says. You've got to wait till it's about half dry. But what I've got into the habit of doing is just putting the paint on just a little bit thicker. But I know I'm going to scrape, so that way I can just do it straight away and I haven't got to worry. I haven't got to wait or worry about it drying, or worrying about it being too thin. Because what I do find sometimes, if I go in too early because I've put it on too thin, and it will fill back in there. That's just because I haven't put it on thick enough. That way I should have waited maybe half a minute or so until the paper started to dry. And then Dave concludes, it takes a bit of practice to catch it just right. With practice and experience and looking from the side, see what's going on, you'll get there. So thanks, Dave. So I'll leave it there for this video. I hope you get an idea for some of the thoughts, methods and ideas that I've used from these comments. Always keep your comments coming in. I hope you enjoy this video as much as the last one. Keep practicing and I'll see you again soon.